All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Legends Live, featuring myself, Cameron Ballard, on the staff here with the NBRPA, and my colleague, former player, former NBA coach, Kenny Gattison. So, welcome everyone to another episode of Legends Live. We are glad to have you here today. Of course, glad to always be speaking here with Kenny. And for anybody who is tuning in, if you have any questions for Kenny, please let us know. Type them in in the comments, and we will be sure to address them. How you doing, Kenny?
Everything's well, Cam. How you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. Been watching a little bit of basketball. I don't know if you've been tuning into the basketball tournament, but that's got some live sports on right now. Some live basketball. Some former players. ISO Joe Johnson is the talk of the town right now. So have you tuned in at all?
Oh yeah, I've been watching the basketball tournament and watching the young guys get out there and compete and sprinkle a little bit of the veteran players in that ISO Joe. I had the privilege of coaching him in Atlanta for a couple of years, and nobody's better with the ball isolated on the wing. He's a big, strong guy, and he knows how to create space and get his own shot. And he's made a lot of money in the NBA doing it, so he's looking to make a little more in the basketball tournament.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see his takeaway, but I know a lot of the guys end up, somewhere around $100,000, and that's not too bad for some like 8 games, to come away with.
Well, I can tell you this: it won't move Joe Johnson's bank account. He'll probably cash that and put it in his pocket. But for the rest of the young guys that's been, playing overseas and playing in the G League and trying to establish a reputation and improve on their game. The reason why they're not in the NBA is there's a part of their game that they're weak at, and that's what the G League is for. And going overseas, and a lot of guys have saw the benefit of playing in the basketball tournament and splitting $1 million. I mean, you ain't gonna do that working down at the Tyson Chicken Factory. So a lot of these guys are young and they're hungry and just trying to prove themselves. So that's a great platform to do it in.
Okay. So you mentioned some guys who are clawing their way to make it professionally, whether it's in the NBA or overseas. Had some headlines last night. Jamar Crawford. Mr. Crossover, Mr. J Crossover himself, he has found his way back into the league. Any thoughts on his signing? I know Michael Beasley was also signed to the Brooklyn Nets, so it's great to see those guys back in the league.
Well, this is what is a byproduct of a work stoppage, a pandemic, and the NBA trying to get the season completed. There's a whole lot of veterans that were sitting at home, not signing contracts, and that's a whole lot of the salary cap comes into play, and teams that have money can obviously go out and sign a veteran. Playoff teams that they need that one veteran spark on their bench, they'll sign these guys to the mid-level exemption or the veterans minimum, and good to see a lot of these veteran players that weren't signed, and kind of reminiscent of what Carmelo Anthony did. He was sitting at home and working out and saying he could play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Portland Trailblazers took a chance on him, and he come back and he proved himself. And one thing about veteran players, they do what they do.
Yes, sir.
And Crawford, he's a professional scorer.
Yeah,
that's what he got one job, and that's to score the ball. If you're looking for him to stop his man on the other end, you can forget about it. He's a professional scorer. So, it's good to see the guys getting signed and getting back on rosters, and a lot of the players that are opting out of playing, going down to the bubble in Orlando, and I don't know who pin that word bubble to it. But it's going to be called the Bubble Championship. So it's going to be something that's going to morph every day because you can't control the sunrise, the sunset, or the air you breathe. So everything looks great on paper, but just like the commissioner Adam Silver been saying, everything looks great, but you prepare, you hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So there's going to be some guys that test positive for the virus, and I like the fact that the league has been very flexible in making their rules as far as bringing in alternative players and alternates and how deep that list goes. And I'm pretty sure every team has secured a pool of players, probably 2 players at every position, assuming somebody's going to test positive. And, so it's new, it's the new normal. So it's going to have to take it probably, I ain't even going to say 1 week at a time, probably every 3 days at a time, and rosters will change.
Rosters will change. I know part of the conversation has been the menu, so we know the menu is gonna be changing. Whether we see LeBron James eating some of the same things as everybody else, yet to be determined. But I doubt LeBron James would be receiving some catered snacks. I'm pretty sure he'll find some kind of way to get all the things that he needs, as well as some of the other high-profile guys in the league.
Well, the thing that started changing in the NBA in the late 90s, teams started providing personal chefs. I mean, I remember when I was coaching in New Jersey in 96 to 99 with John Calipari. And one of the first things that he did was put a clause in his contract that the Nets had to build a new practice facility that included a kitchen and a dining room. And you get these millionaires that come in there, and there's a chef in the kitchen. There was a menu, whether you wanted an omelet or pancakes or wheat waffle or whatever it was. And I was like, wow, if I had this when I played in the NBA, I wouldn't have had to eat pizza and drink beer. Every team has to submit a travel party. Who's going to be allowed in the bubble, and it's really going to be team travel. And most of these players have their own personal trainer. They have their guy that knows their bodies and works them out. And some of those people aren't going to be allowed. Like you said, there's no set menu that every player wants to adhere to. Some guys are vegetarian. Some guys are non-red meat eaters. Some guys are vegan. It's really going to be, how do you stay safe and accommodate the players? Because the bottom line, all of them down there are millionaires, and they can go get what they want. And it's going to be a huge task for the NBA security, and all of the team representatives to find a way to make their rules coexist with the players. Like you say, certain players aren't going to eat certain things. Certain players are regimented in their diets and what they do, and it's a great effort to get the season back underway and completed and name a championship. But I think all of the fans and the public, they need to understand there's going to be some hiccups and speed bumps. There's going to be hit, and there's going to be some players that test positive, and it's once you push that ball down the hill, it keeps rolling. So they're gonna have to figure it out, and it's gonna be every 3 days. It's probably gonna be a reset. So they'll be able to see what's working, see what's the one thing I know about the NBA is that it's a living, breathing organism, and the players make it go around. So if the players come to them and say, we like this, but we don't like that, trust me, they'll change it. So, hopefully, everybody stays safe, and there's a minimum of positive tests. But I mean, you just can't control it. That Disney property, that ESPN sports complex is massive.
Huge. And
you're going to have essential workers that's coming in working, and they're going home to their families. Yeah. And then they're going to have to come back to work. Somebody's going to have to come in there and wipe down and clean every court, every rim, every ball, every evening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To make sure they're safe. But those people, not to my knowledge, they aren't going to be staying in a hotel,
right?
With the unlimited expense account, all the room service and these things of the nature that the players are entitled to. So it's going to be a lot of moving parts. But I got confidence in the league and the Players Association that they've put in all of the safeguards and stopgaps to address anything that comes up. But this whole thing is something the world has ever encountered. There's been some bubonic plagues, and the flu is alive and well, but this COVID is something different. So they're just going to have to, as you say, stop, drop, and roll. Things are gonna happen that's not in the procedure manual, and they're just going to have to adjust. And that's the one good thing about the NBA and its personnel and the players. They are the best in the world at adjusting.
Okay. So speaking of, looks like we got Mr. Fred here wishing saying hello from France. So we got an international audience. So speaking on that, and we talked about it earlier. Yeah, a lot of guys, you got the Jamar Crawford and the Michael Beasleys who are making their way back into the league. Thinking about your time playing, we question when guys find themselves out the league, but we know they're capable. Can you think about some guys who maybe found themselves out the league for whatever reason, but everybody around, the players especially, even some coaches knew they deserved another chance? Anybody come to mind?
Well, there's been a slew of players over the last few years that have been removed, waived, cut, what have you, from NBA rosters to go overseas. And a lot of times it's sheer money. The dollars that the teams overseas are paying has drastically went up over the last 10, 12 years. But there's also no place to play over there. There's no league going on in China, Spain, Italy, Euro Cup, so a lot of those, there's only so many seats at the table.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about playoff teams and teams that can, in essence, play their way into a playoff position. I think they're playing 8 regular season games, and trust me, there won't be much movement. if you're already one of the top playoff team, one of the top 8 teams out of your division, and you're not going to lose 8 games in a row. And if you're not a playoff team, you're not going to win 8 games in a row. So the chances of there being any movement in the teams that already were in playoff positions is slim and none. But I would say that the teams that lose a player because of a positive test or because of an injury, they're going to go to players with NBA experience. And, I don't know what the list would be, but, there's veteran players. And I can tell you right now, the guys that have played in the Big Three over the last couple of years, and in the G League, they're probably just littered on these teams, alternate rosters, because in the event that a player goes down, you want somebody that's played in the NBA and has some experience, and once they get in, so there's going to be injuries. You got to understand, there's guys that have been working out, the top earners in the league. Most of these guys have courts and gyms at their homes and weight rooms, and there's a lot of guys that they rely on personal trainers and health club facilities to stay in shape. So you're going to get a bunch of guys that come in at different levels of preparedness, in shape or not in shape. So there's going to be a few injuries. There's going to be some twisted ankles and things of that nature. But I spent most of my life in the NBA and coaching, and every team in Orlando, they have a long list of players that they can, and they've probably already reached out to their agents, and they got them on speed dial. So the second somebody goes down, there'll be somebody in the stands or in the back making that call to get somebody in there the next day. So we'll see. It'll be very familiar names, as you see already. Guys are opting out, and they're picking up veteran players. So that's what teams are looking for.
You hit it right on the money, man. Looking forward to my Rockets getting back in. I try not to hide my my alliance, but we'll see what happens when it comes to some of these guys who join teams. Luke Rashad Mbamute, I know, joined the Rockets. I'm excited to see, like you said, some of these new additions, some of these guys here. Looks like we got a question. It says, how do you guys feel about the Chicago bubble? Coming from Coltrane Dunn. How do you guys feel about the Chicago bubble? What is the motivation for players, teams there?
Well, teams that are not within 6 games of a playoff spot, they weren't invited to Orlando. And the Chicago bubble is created to keep the players playing. There's no summer league. There's no opportunity to keep your guys engaged in team activity and team workouts, and and it really takes young players a couple 3 years to get the game to slow down in their mind. And the Chicago bubble is really created to possibly give teams another avenue to evaluate their draft picks from a year ago, to evaluate guys that are in their 4th year. They got to pick up the option or sign them to long-term contracts. And teams are just trying to be proactive and see what the young talent that they invested draft picks and money in, and if they can get them in a competitive situation, get them on the court with their coaching staff and talk about the schemes and the terminology, and anything is better than not playing. And these guys, I think, haven't played since the beginning of March or something like that. So, you're a professional basketball player. You're a professional team front office or coaching staff or owner. You want to see your guys playing, and that's what the Chicago bubble is all about. And then again, safety is the paramount issue here. Can they go into Chicago and have the same protection that the playoff teams that are loaded with stars can have? It's going to stretch the NBA personnel thin. It's going to stretch team personnel thin. So the Chicago bubble is formed for the right reasons. Keep these players playing. They haven't been playing in close to 3 months now. So, like I said, in theory, it sounds good. It's the application part that's going to be the problem. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a 3-day reboot, whether they're in Orlando or whether they're in Chicago, because this virus has proven to be very elusive in determining how you contract it. At first they were saying, wipe off your groceries, wipe off a package if you receive, and then they're saying, no, you can't get it from that. So it's airborne. The bottom line is nobody knows. So you just have to have plan A, B, C, and D in this this cycle of what they're going through.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it. We're seeing it happen. I know Major League Soccer, they've got their own bubble down in Orlando as well. I know the WNBA is preparing themselves. And you talked about the NBA trying to figure out where they, where they're using their resources. So, you're seeing a lot of the leagues right now try to understand the best way to approach this entire situation.
Well, and the one common thread that you see with all of the sports leagues is they're going about it as no fans in attendance, and that by far is probably the biggest hurdle that they could address. And by not having crowds, you cut down on exposure. So hopefully everybody gets through their season, whether it's soccer, baseball, basketball. Now you're talking about NBA, NFL teams getting ready to go to training camp, and at the same time, baseball starting up, but they have a record number of players testing positive before they even get into training camp. So it's going to be hit and miss. With the spikes that you're seeing in the country, I wouldn't be totally surprised that by the time some of these leagues get started up, they're going to be shut right back down, because at the end of life, human life is the most valuable commodity out there. So you just going to have to knock on wood and cross your fingers and your toes and hope for the best.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If we have any other questions, those watching, please feel free to continue to chime in. I got a question for you, Kenny. We talking about watching live sports here, but over the past couple months, TV, movies, documentaries, been huge. Personally, I've tried to watch as many basketball-related documentaries as possible. Of course, The Last Dance, but ESPN has a lot of featured documentaries. A Len Bias documentary on there. Have you had a chance to watch anything or reflect on any of the things that you've been able to see? I know they got the Dream Team documentary. So many things, content available right now.
Well, you got to look at things from a different perspective, especially from my view.
Okay.
All of this stuff that was happening I lived it.
You lived it.
I was right in the middle of it. I was very good friends with Len Bias, and throughout college, and we played each other in college, and I grew up with Michael Jordan, who is just Mike and always will be Mike to me. So I know his path. I know, and when you shed that depth of content on a team and individuals, you're going to have some negative things come out. But in defense to some of the negative things that came out about Mike, yeah, he was a damn tyrant when the clock was running in practice or on the court. And so was Magic, so was Bird, so was Isaiah Thomas, Tim Duncan, not so much vocal, but it was Pop. Pop was the driving force. When you see Pop get into Tim Duncan and Ginobili and David Robinson and Tony Parker and those guys, them other 8-9 players on the team, they're like, oh hell, I bet not step out of line. So everybody has their way of getting their desired outcome. And everybody does it differently. But to win a championship on any level, you have to push your teammates. There's very talented players. Once you get to Division I, once you get to the NBA, those are the best of the best that ever played the game. And they have a recipe for winning. And some of it is a pat on the back, and some of it's a kick in the ass. But at the end of the day, they won a championship. And no championship trophy ever says, oh, NCAA champion, I patted him on the back, or NBA champion, I kicked him. You say champion, it's like the movie Talladega Nights. You're either first or you're last.
All right.
So, I think and for people that's been around it, that Last Dance documentary was a bunch of footage that was 25 years old.
Yeah, just filler.
It's all been seen, it's all been heard. The only thing that was different this time is that Michael Jordan is the owner. He's 57 years old. He ain't have nothing else to do. So he decided to sit down with him and give him his perspective on it. Other than that, they would have never done it, because nobody wants to see anything about the Chicago Bulls unless it's Michael Jordan talking about it. So I think at the end of the day, it shed a light on how competitive he was and how much he was driven. But at no time or no point in that documentary did anybody ever question Michael Jordan's work ethic or commitment to the game, because you're talking about somebody that could stay up with the owls at night and get up with the chickens and win every sprint, and win every scrimmage game, and call you all kinds of names while he was doing it. I mean, he did it his way, and I'm a little partial to the guy, but he's the GOAT. And trust me when I tell you, LeBron James ain't the nicest guy. When he need to correct some players and get on their butt, Chris Paul ain't. Trust me when I tell you, I had the opportunity to coach Chris Paul for the first 4 or 5 years of his career. Champions aren't nice. They're not. They're going to push you to your limit, and then they're going to ask for more. And that's in any league at any level. That's how you win championships. So the documentaries are rehashing of what it was like inside that Last Dance, and I think at the end of the day, a lot of people got a perspective on the business of basketball. All people see are the games and the highlights on ESPN. They don't understand what goes into it and the power struggles between management and players, coaches and owners. If Krause would have left Phil Jackson alone, that Bulls team might have won 2, maybe 3 more championships. So, it doesn't matter what somebody say or what their opinion is. At the end of the day, you're counting championship trophies.
Yeah.
And, it's documented.
Yeah.
Kobe wasn't nice to Shaq. Shaq is just a big, gentle giant. He's a playful dude, and he show up in LA with Kobe, who's cut out of the same killer instinct as MJ.
Yep.
And the killer in the game, the killer is in practice. That's who you got to deal with, they're going to push you. And that's one of the things that, created a little bit of conflict in their relationship.
Yeah.
That one guy, you impose your will on the rest of your teammates because you feel like this is how we're going to win championships or multiple championships. So it's every championship team has a DNA. There's always a leader, and there's always guys that you just got to tell them what to do one time and they do it. And then there's guys that you tell them what to do 3 times and they still screw it up. So you got to stay on their butt. So, it was entertaining and it was good. But at the end of the day, I think most people came out of there and say, arguably, MJ still the GOAT.
Still the GOAT. Still the GOAT. Still the GOAT. Okay, we got a question. Got a question from our old intern Brad. Brad asked, "How has the fishing been, Gat?"
Well, I'm down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we got lakes all around us. So the bass have been biting, the perch have been biting, and I grew up down there on the coast of North Carolina, down there in Wilmington, and flounder, Spanish mackerel, spot crocus. It's been a great quarantine, I can tell you that.
Okay, we're talking your language now. Language. Okay. Man, okay, looks like we got a Throwback Thursday video coming up here. Let's check it out.
Let's do it.
The Converse weapon. That's the shoe. That's magic. Do what he was born to do.
It may be so, but that's not all. They let Isaiah play like he's 10 feet tall.
For the kind of moves that never fail, the weapon's the choice of Kevin McHale.
The same is true for Mark Aguirre. When I wear weapons, I'm on fire.
Well, what can the weapons do for King? Well, I can do just about anything.
You already know what you did for me.
What?
I walked away with the MVP.
The Converse weapon. The #1 weapon in the NBA.
Wow. Wow. Now that's a Throwback Thursday right there.
Man, we got some friends of the organization in there. You got, of course, some MVPs in there, some uber talented guys. Bernard King, I mean, in my opinion, underrated when you talk about, NBA personalities and the type of career that he had, man.
BK was, once again, a professional scorer.
Okay,
and you look at everybody on that screen, and they were either tremendous playmakers who could score, or they were tremendous scorers. And it takes a balanced team to win a championship. And you go back and I remember that commercial because I was signed to a Converse contract at that time, and those guys, especially Magic and Bird and Isaiah got that thing going in Detroit. Those guys saved the NBA. Those guys, I didn't even know any of those guys could rap. And but you look at the you dissect the group that was there. Magic, Isaiah, Bird, they were phenomenal team players.
Mhm.
But at any time on any night, they could get 30.
Mhm.
And then you look at BK, you look at McHale, you look at Aguirre. Most every night they got 30. And the bottom line is only one team can win the championship. But I'll tell you this: when you look at those individuals, you look at the cast that were around them. The guys that won championships, they had 2 or 3 Hall of Famers around them.
Yep.
What did BK have in New York at the time? He was average 30 points a game.
Yeah.
He didn't have Patrick Ewing. He didn't have a bench that brought in an Anthony Mason or, so to win championships in the NBA or any league, the timing of when you come into the league is so important, and where you go is so important. And you look at the guys on that roster, on that commercial just now, the guys that won championships were big market teams.
Yeah.
And when you look at what they term today, the big three, that was going on in the early and mid 80s. Magic had Jabbar Worthy, Jamal Wilkes, Byron Scott. Magic had, those cast of characters. Bird had Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish.
Yep.
So the big three is nothing new.
Yeah.
Isaiah finally got into his niche and started winning championships. He had Rodman. He had Joe Dumars. He had James Edwards. He had you don't win by yourself.
Yeah.
And the only difference today when you talk about the big three, guys did not go and play for the hated rival.
Okay.
Under no circumstances would Magic have ever left the Lakers to go play for Boston, and vice versa. Bird would have never went to the Lakers to play with Magic.
Right.
That's the only difference. And what's happened with the NBA over the last 15, 20 years is contracts. Back in the 80s and early 90s, you were a free agent. You fitted into a slot.
Okay.
There was no movement. There was a hard cap. And then they created the Bird exemption. And then now you have mechanisms in the NBA collective bargaining agreement that guys can leave and go play a couple years for a little bit of money and then make $35 million like KD did with the Golden State Warriors when he left Oklahoma City. So the big three has always been around.
Yeah.
It just was done a different way. It was done through the draft and player development. It wasn't done through free agency because guys were so committed to the organizations that drafted them. And then you see guys that leave after they have spent 10 years with an organization and can't win a championship. They'll go sign with a championship team in order to win that. Trust me, right now, Charles Barkley wish he'd have signed with the Lakers instead of Phoenix Suns, because that's the team that knocked him out. Or go play for the Bulls for 2 years, because I think it was '96 that MJ and the Bulls beat them in the finals. So it's done the same way. You got to have 2 Hall of Famers and 2 more All-Stars to win a championship. Yeah. Guys just now, because of the way, and it all started with, players were very loyal to the teams that drafted them. But then when they see guys get drafted after they've been with a team for 8-9 years,
traded away without,
they get traded for a hot 6-pack and a sweatsuit. They're like, you know what? I'm a free agent. I'm going and play. And you can. I'm telling you right now, there's a few guys that's Dame Lillard.
Yeah.
He's in that Charles Barkley sleeping bag.
Yeah.
He can stay in Portland his whole career, but he ain't winning no championship. So things are morphing, and you saw it with the Lakers. I think Gary Payton, Karl Malone, a whole lot of players start signing with the Lakers, start signing with the Spurs. So it's one of those things that there's always been a big three. It's just done differently today.
Mm-hmm. Little more organic back then. Now players have leverage. They have the ability to, like you said, through the CBA to take their career and their destiny into their own hands. And whether it's a KD, losing to Golden State and then joining them the next year, or talking about somebody like Lillard making close to 45, I think something like 45 million this year. What's important to you? What's important to you? And you're starting to see that now.
Well, I don't care. You can't go buy. You go eBay and buy a replica of NBA championship ring or something, but you can't leave tens and tens of millions of dollars on the table. I mean, it comes down to a business decision at the end of the day, and that's the beauty and the curse of the salary cap going way up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I don't know if we have any other questions from viewers. Kenny, I appreciate your time. As always, you got a chance to hit on a couple of different topics here. If you have anything, any other nuggets you want to offer, as the world prepares to watch the NBA bubble, as the world prepares to really, engage back in live sports and receiving that content. I'm excited for sure.
Well, I think we're all excited to see NBA basketball get back and get restarted. And of course, naturally, we're looking for healthy players and the best teams. Right now, Milwaukee is the favorite out of the East, and I think the West will come down to
Rockets. The Rockets.
Would you say Ricolo?
The
cough drop? No, it's the West coming down to the Lakers and the Clippers, buddy. You can think the Rockets all you want to, but we'll revisit that. But we had a viewer from France, Fred. He chimed in. Say la vie, Fred. All the best for you guys over there in France.
Awesome. For those watching, we appreciate you all for tuning in to another episode of Legends Live. Again, thank you, Gat. Another chat with Gat here. And if you all are interested in taking a glance at some of our previous episodes, please visit legendsofbasketball.com/legendslive to tune in to see what we've been producing over this quarantine and what we look hopefully to continue producing in the coming months. So thank you all for tuning in. Please tune into the next Legends Live on Tuesday. We host these every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you again for tuning in. From the NBA alumni, Cameron Ballard and Kenny Gattison, thank you so much.